Have you ever noticed how some people don't need to speak loudly to be taken seriously? How their presence alone shifts the room? No announcements, no warnings, just a quiet certainty that makes others pause. That feeling you sense around them is not confidence borrowed from applause. It is discipline. And once you understand how it works, you will never see success, respect, or self-control the same way again. Most people think discipline is loud. They imagine rigid schedules, extreme routines, or public displays of hustle. But real discipline is invisible. It lives in the moments no one claps for. It shows up early and leaves late without telling anyone. It chooses the hard option when the easy one is available. Discipline does not chase attention. It builds power in silence. And that silence is exactly what makes it unsettling to others. Here is the truth most people avoid. Discipline changes who you are before it changes what you have. Long before results appear, something inside you shifts. Your posture changes. Your decisions sharpen. Your tolerance for excuses disappears. You stop explaining yourself. You stop waiting for permission. That internal shift creates an energy people can feel, even if they cannot name it. Humans are wired to notice consistency. When your actions align day after day, it signals strength. Predictability with purpose feels dangerous to those who live in chaos. This is why discipline scares people. Not because you are aggressive, not because you threaten them, but because discipline reflects reality without words. When you stay focused while others drift, you expose the cost of distraction. When you remain consistent while others quit, you reveal the price of comfort. Your silence becomes a mirror, and not everyone likes what they see when they look into it. Think about this. The mind craves certainty. It feels safe around people who are controlled by moods, trends, or opinions. But discipline removes randomness. It removes emotional negotiation. You act because you decided to act, not because you felt like it. That level of self-command breaks the social script. People expect hesitation. They expect delay. They expect excuses. When none appear, it disrupts their expectations. And what disrupts expectations creates fear. Discipline also carries a deeper message. It says, I trust myself. Every small promise you keep strengthens that trust. Every time you follow through, your nervous system learns that your word matters. This creates calm under pressure. You no longer rush. You no longer react. You move with intention. That calm is rare, and rarity attracts attention without asking for it. Most people live at the mercy of impulse. They wait for motivation. They wait for the right mood. Discipline removes waiting from the equation. It replaces hope with structure. Structure creates stability. Stability creates confidence. Confidence creates presence. And presence is felt before it is seen. This is why disciplined individuals don't need to prove themselves. Their consistency has already done the talking. But here is the part few understand. Discipline is not about control over the world. It is about control over the self. And self-control is the highest form of power. When you master your impulses, no one can manipulate you easily. When you master your time, no one can rush you. When you master your attention, no one can distract you from your path. That level of independence threatens systems built on weakness and dependence. This video is not about becoming harsh or emotionless. It is about becoming anchored. Discipline grounds you when life tries to shake you. It gives you direction when emotions try to pull you sideways. It becomes your inner compass. And once that compass is set, outside noise loses its influence. If you stay with this until the end, you will understand how discipline reshapes identity, not just habits. You will see why the most powerful transformation happens quietly, long before the world notices. And you will learn how to build a level of discipline that changes how people see you, without you ever needing to say a word. That silent shift you just felt is where discomfort begins for others. Because once discipline takes root inside you, it starts revealing things people would rather keep hidden. Discipline is honest. It exposes patterns. And most people are not afraid of hard work. They are afraid of what hard work will reveal about them. When someone sees you show up consistently, it forces comparison. Not the kind you speak out loud, but the kind that happens internally. The human mind automatically measures itself against what it observes. And when your actions stay aligned while theirs stay delayed, tension forms. That tension feels like pressure. Pressure demands change, and change is uncomfortable for those who have grown attached to their excuses. Discipline highlights the gap between intention and action. Almost everyone has goals. Almost everyone has dreams. But very few are willing to live in alignment with them daily. When you do, you become living evidence that effort works. That time matters. That commitment compounds. This is unsettling because it removes the illusion that success is random. It proves that results are earned. And earned results leave no room for denial. People often say they admire discipline, but admiration and comfort rarely coexist. Discipline challenges identity. When someone sees you waking up early, staying focused, or refusing distractions, it confronts the stories they tell themselves. Stories like, "I don't have time," or "I'll start later," or "It's not the right moment." Your consistency questions those narratives without saying a word, and the mind does not like being questioned. Psychologically, humans protect their self-image at all costs. When discipline enters the room, it threatens that protection. Because if you can stay committed despite obstacles, then excuses lose credibility. And when excuses lose credibility, accountability appears. Accountability is heavy. It demands responsibility. Many would rather label discipline as extreme or obsessive than face the reality that they could do more. This is why disciplined people are often misunderstood. Not because they are wrong, but because they represent a standard others are not ready to meet. It is easier to criticize than to confront personal gaps. Easier to mock consistency than to admit inconsistency. Easier to distance than to evolve. Fear disguises itself as judgment. There is also a deeper layer. Discipline removes emotional chaos. When your actions are structured, your emotions stabilize. You stop riding highs and lows. You stop being reactive. That emotional regulation is rare, and people are instinctively cautious around those they cannot emotionally predict. When you are not controlled by praise or criticism, you become harder to influence. Independence unsettles systems built on emotional dependency. Think about how often people bond over complaining, procrastinating, or avoiding effort. Discipline disrupts that social comfort. It changes conversations. It changes priorities. It changes how time is used. And when you no longer participate in shared avoidance, you unintentionally step outside the group identity. That separation can feel threatening to those who rely on collective comfort to avoid individual responsibility. Discipline also creates momentum. And momentum is visible. It shows in how you speak, how you move, how you decide. You hesitate less. You commit faster. You waste less energy. This efficiency makes others feel slow, even if you never point it out. Speed with purpose highlights stagnation, and stagnation is painful to acknowledge. But understand this clearly. The fear others feel is not your burden to carry. It is not your responsibility to shrink so others feel comfortable. Discipline is not arrogance. It is self-respect in action. It is honoring your future over your present comfort. And anyone disturbed by that is responding to their own unfinished work, not your progress. When you accept this, something powerful happens. You stop seeking validation. You stop explaining your choices. You stop adjusting your pace to match others. You realize that discipline will naturally filter your environment. Some will fall away. Some will observe quietly. Some will eventually ask how you did it. All of that is part of the process. Discipline is not meant to be popular. It is meant to be effective. And effectiveness often looks intimidating to those who are still negotiating with themselves. The moment you stop negotiating, you step into a different category. One where fear no longer controls your decisions. One where consistency becomes your language. And one where your presence alone begins to speak louder than words ever could. Once you step into that different category, something becomes very clear. Motivation can no longer be trusted. Motivation is emotional. It rises and falls with mood, energy, and circumstance. Discipline does not wait for the right feeling. It acts despite the feeling. And this is where most people lose the battle before it even begins. The human brain is designed to seek comfort and avoid pain. Motivation feeds comfort because it feels good when it shows up. It gives a rush, a spark, a temporary sense of power. But motivation is unreliable. It disappears the moment resistance appears. Discipline, on the other hand, is built for resistance. It exists because resistance exists. It is not excited. It is committed. When you rely on motivation, you live reactively. You act when you feel inspired and pause when you feel tired. This creates inconsistency, and inconsistency creates self-doubt. Every time you break a promise to yourself, the mind takes note. Over time, you begin to unconsciously distrust yourself. Discipline repairs that trust, not through emotion, but through evidence. Small actions done repeatedly send a clear message to your mind: I follow through. This is where identity begins to shift. You stop asking, do I feel like doing this? And start asking, what does the person I am becoming do in this moment? That question changes everything. It removes emotion from the decision-making process. You are no longer negotiating with weakness. You are reinforcing character. Discipline trains the brain to delay gratification, and delayed gratification is one of the strongest predictors of long-term success. When you choose effort over ease, the brain rewires itself. You become more patient, more focused, more resilient. Each disciplined action strengthens neural pathways associated with self-control. Over time, discipline stops feeling forced and starts feeling natural. It becomes who you are, not something you try to do. This is why disciplined people appear calm under pressure. They are not calm because life is easy. They are calm because they are practiced. They have trained themselves to act without emotional permission. They have felt resistance and moved anyway. That experience builds psychological armor. When chaos appears, they do not freeze. They default to structure. Motivation asks, how do I feel today? Discipline asks, what needs to be done? That difference separates dreamers from builders. Dreamers wait for alignment. Builders create it. Builders understand that feelings follow action, not the other way around. You do not wait to feel confident before acting. You act, and confidence follows. There is also freedom in discipline that most people misunderstand. Discipline is not restriction. It is relief. It removes decision fatigue. When your standards are clear, you no longer debate with yourself. You conserve mental energy. You move with clarity. That clarity creates momentum. Momentum creates belief, and belief strengthens discipline even further. This cycle is powerful. Action builds trust. Trust builds identity. Identity fuels action. Over time, you stop seeing discipline as effort. It becomes self-respect in motion. You no longer chase motivation because you no longer need it. You have built a system that works even on hard days, and hard days are guaranteed. That is the reality no one escapes. Discipline prepares you for those days. It gives you something solid to lean on when emotions fail you, when energy is low, when doubt is loud. Discipline becomes your anchor. This is where many people misunderstand disciplined individuals. They think discipline is cold, but discipline is compassionate. It protects your future self from the chaos of your present impulses. It chooses long-term peace over short-term pleasure. That choice is not easy, but it is powerful. Once you internalize this, your relationship with effort changes. You stop romanticizing motivation. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop believing that success is supposed to feel good all the time. You understand that progress often feels boring, repetitive, and uncomfortable, and you embrace it anyway. That is when discipline stops being something you do. It becomes something you are. And when discipline becomes identity, it becomes unshakable. When discipline becomes identity, separation begins. Not dramatic separation, not loud goodbyes, but a quiet distance that grows over time. The path of self-control is rarely crowded because most people are not willing to walk without constant reward. Discipline asks you to move forward even when no one notices. And that choice naturally narrows the circle around you. You start to realize that not everyone can come with you. Some people are only comfortable with you when you remain familiar, when you share their habits, their pace, their distractions. But discipline changes your rhythm. You wake up earlier. You waste less time. You choose growth over comfort. And that difference creates space. Not because you reject others, but because your priorities no longer match. This is where many people panic. Loneliness feels like failure at first. The silence feels heavy. The absence of validation feels unsettling. But this phase is not punishment. It is refinement. Self-control requires solitude because clarity grows in quiet. When noise fades, you hear your own standards more clearly. You stop borrowing energy from others. You start generating it internally. Psychologically, humans seek belonging. It is a survival instinct. Discipline challenges that instinct by asking a deeper question. Do you want comfort now, or respect later? Approval today, or strength tomorrow? The lonely path forces you to answer honestly, and honesty often costs popularity. Self-control means saying no when it would be easier to say yes. It means leaving early. It means staying disciplined when others indulge. It means choosing rest when others chase distraction. These choices can make you seem distant, but distance is not disconnection. It is direction. There is a difference between being alone and being misaligned. Discipline removes misalignment. It brings your actions into harmony with your goals. When alignment increases, tolerance for meaningless engagement decreases. You no longer enjoy conversations that lead nowhere. You no longer find comfort in habits that drain you. This is not arrogance. It is awareness. People may not understand this shift. Some will interpret your discipline as coldness. Others will call it obsession. But what they are reacting to is restraint. Restraint is rare in a world addicted to excess. Self-control exposes how much energy is wasted chasing temporary pleasure. And when that truth appears, it makes people uneasy. The lonely path also builds emotional independence. You stop needing constant reassurance. You stop checking for approval. You become stable within yourself. This stability is powerful. It means your mood is no longer controlled by others' opinions. It means your confidence is no longer borrowed. It is earned. That emotional independence is often mistaken for detachment. But it is not detachment from people. It is detachment from distraction. You are still present, still grounded, just no longer reactive, and people can feel that. They sense that you are not easily influenced, that you do not bend under pressure, that you are selective with your energy. This is why disciplined individuals are respected even when they are not fully understood. Respect does not always come with applause. Often, it arrives quietly, in the way people watch you, in the way they lower their voice around you, in the way they hesitate before wasting your time. Your self-control sets boundaries without confrontation. Loneliness on this path is temporary, but growth is permanent. As discipline deepens, your inner world becomes stronger. You begin to enjoy the silence. You begin to trust your own company. You realize that being alone with purpose is better than being surrounded without direction. And something else happens. You become harder to derail. When setbacks come, you do not collapse. When criticism appears, you do not spiral. You have already spent time alone building yourself. You know who you are without noise. That knowledge becomes armor. The lonely path teaches you a powerful lesson. You do not need constant companionship to move forward. You need clarity. You need standards. You need self-respect. Discipline gives you all three. And once you experience that strength, you stop fearing solitude. Because solitude, when guided by discipline, is not emptiness. It is preparation. Preparation always leads somewhere. Quiet effort never stays invisible forever. Discipline works like pressure beneath the surface. For a long time, nothing seems to change. No applause, no recognition, no sudden breakthrough. But beneath that calm surface, something is forming. Strength, skill, confidence, and then, without warning, the results begin to surface. This is how discipline speaks, not with promises, but with proof. One day you realize your focus is sharper. Your reactions are slower and more controlled. Your decisions feel lighter because you are no longer second guessing yourself. Discipline has reduced internal noise. You are no longer scattered. You are centered. Psychologically, this is the moment when effort turns into belief. Your mind starts trusting the process because it has seen evidence. You showed up when it was hard. You stayed consistent when no one noticed. That consistency rewires your self-image. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries. You start seeing yourself as someone who finishes. Results are not just external. Yes, changes appear in your work, your body, your progress. But the most powerful results appear internally. You become calmer under pressure. You stop reacting emotionally to setbacks. Problems no longer feel personal. They feel practical. Something to solve, not something to fear. This internal shift changes how others perceive you. People notice that you do not rush, that you listen more than you speak, that you do not chase attention or approval. Your presence becomes grounded, steady, certain. Humans are deeply sensitive to emotional signals. When someone operates from stability instead of anxiety, it stands out immediately. You may notice people treating you differently. Some will seek your opinion. Others will observe quietly. A few may feel intimidated, even if they cannot explain why. It is not because you are dominating. It is because you are no longer seeking validation. And people can sense when someone is self-contained. Discipline also changes your relationship with time. You stop wasting it. You stop rushing through it. You understand that time compounds just like effort. Small actions, done daily, begin to create distance between who you are and who you used to be. That distance becomes visible in how you speak, in how you carry yourself, in what you tolerate. When results start speaking, you no longer feel the need to defend your choices. You do not argue with critics. You do not explain your process. You let consistency handle that for you. Silence becomes your confidence, and confidence without noise is powerful. There is also a subtle shift in how you experience satisfaction. You stop chasing instant rewards. You start enjoying progress itself, the routine, the structure, the quiet pride of knowing you kept your word to yourself. That kind of satisfaction is deep. It does not fade quickly. It builds resilience. Others may call your growth sudden. They may say you changed quickly, but you know the truth. You changed slowly, daily, invisibly. Discipline does not rush transformation. It earns it. And when transformation is earned, it lasts. This is the moment when discipline starts protecting you. It shields you from impulsive decisions. It keeps you steady during emotional storms. It gives you confidence that is not dependent on circumstances. Even when things go wrong, you know you will respond with structure, not panic. People are drawn to that energy, not because you are perfect, but because you are reliable. Reliability is rare. Reliability creates trust, and trust creates influence without force. You begin to realize that discipline was never about impressing anyone. It was about becoming someone you could rely on. Someone who does not collapse under pressure. Someone who does not betray their own standards when things get uncomfortable. When results start speaking, fear changes sides. You are no longer afraid of effort. You are no longer afraid of discomfort. You have lived through it and grown stronger. But others, seeing what discipline has done for you, begin to fear what it reveals about them. And that is when you understand something powerful. Discipline does not need to announce itself. It simply arrives. And when it does, it changes the room. When it changes the room, it also changes how you see yourself. Discipline does not add something on top of who you are. It strips things away. Old habits, old reactions, old versions of you that survived on impulse and approval. Over time, you become unfamiliar to people who only knew your past patterns. And eventually, you become unfamiliar to yourself. This is not loss. This is evolution. You begin to notice it in small moments. You no longer argue with distractions. You no longer explain why you are focused. You no longer feel guilty for protecting your time. What once required effort now feels natural. What once felt uncomfortable now feels necessary. Discipline has rewritten your internal rules. Psychologically, this is identity solidification. Your brain no longer sees discipline as something you force. It sees it as who you are. When identity locks in, behavior follows automatically. You do not wake up asking if you will stay consistent. You expect it from yourself. And expectations shape reality. This is where people truly feel the difference. Not because you are louder, but because you are grounded. You are no longer reactive. Praise does not inflate you. Criticism does not derail you. You move forward with quiet certainty. That kind of emotional control is rare, and rarity creates distance. Some will say you changed. They are right. But what they often mean is that you stopped being accessible to chaos. You stopped participating in cycles that led nowhere. You stopped feeding habits that weakened you. That can feel threatening to those who are still trapped in those cycles. You also stop seeking permission to grow. Discipline has taught you that waiting delays progress. You trust your judgment more. You listen carefully, but you decide independently. This independence can be intimidating, not because you reject others, but because you no longer need their approval to act. At this stage, discipline becomes protection. It protects your energy, your focus, your future. You recognize temptation early and disengage without drama. You recognize patterns that lead to regret and avoid them without struggle. This awareness feels like maturity to some, distance to others. You no longer chase intensity, you value consistency. You no longer crave excitement, you respect stability. Your nervous system has adapted to calm, and calm is powerful. Calm does not panic, calm does not rush. Calm observes, then acts. This is where intimidation often appears. Not intentional intimidation, but the kind that comes from self-mastery. People sense that you are not easily shaken, that you are not desperate for attention, that you are not controlled by trends or emotions. That self-command sends a signal the human mind instantly recognizes. And here is the final truth. Discipline does not make you superior, it makes you responsible. Responsible for your actions, your time, your standards. That responsibility is heavy. Many avoid it. When they see you carrying it with consistency, it reminds them of what they are avoiding. You do not need to convince anyone of your growth. You do not need to announce your discipline. Your life reflects it. Your choices reflect it. Your calm reflects it. And that reflection is enough. Eventually, you reach a point where fear no longer lives on your side. You are no longer afraid of discomfort, boredom, or effort. You have trained through them. You know they pass. But others, watching from the outside, feel something different. They feel uncertainty, because they see what discipline can turn a person into. Unbreakable does not mean emotionless. It means aligned. It means your actions match your values, even when no one is watching. It means you respect yourself enough to keep your word, especially on hard days. This is what it means to become so disciplined it scares them. Not because you dominate, not because you threaten, but because you embody something rare, control over the self, and once you have that, nothing external truly owns you anymore.